Hello there, Ramblers, and welcome to another spooky instalment of Reese Rambles. That's right, it is Halloween weekend this weekend. In fact, it is actually Halloween as I sit here and talk to you. And it's also very late in the afternoon as well. I've been over to the old studio for what I thought was going to be the last time today in the van, fully loaded it up, came back, and there's still a load of stuff over there that I need to go and fetch tomorrow. So, hopefully the landlord doesn't mind me moving out on the 1st of November rather than the 31st of October, as previously agreed. I would send him a message or give him a call or whatever, but like I say, I'm very short on time. I'm quite hot, I'm quite sweaty, I'm quite flustered. I've got a bad back from carrying loads of old computer stuff. But anyway, as always, the show must go on. And first the weather forecast. It is cold, it is crisp. It was quite windy last night, I think. Was that last night or was that the night before? But yeah, it's not as cold as it has been. Curious. Anyway, there is a piece of news that I had on my list for, I don't know if it was last week's Ramble or the Ramble before. Something that's, it's quite big news in the Atari world, so you would think that I would cover it. And, for some reason, it didn't make the cut. So anyway, I'm going to talk about it now. And this is the Intellivision Sprint. This is Atari's new console, so to speak, or new old console, new reissued console, however you want to describe it. Of course, as discussed on the Rambles previously quite a while back, Atari acquired the rights to all of the Intellivision stuff. And Intellivision being the big rival to the Atari 2600, also released in 1979. Some might say a better console, actually, better graphics and sound and whatnot. But, that's all kind of lost to the past now, I guess. Of course, I'm firmly in the Atari camp, so I'm going to be a fanboy. But nice to see Atari bringing this brand back. Of course, one thing that they didn't purchase when they picked up the rights to the Intellivision brand was the Amico, or the Amico, whatever you want to call it. I think it's Amico, the new console that had all that controversy around it, obviously I've reported on previously. But what they have got is the full back catalogue of games, which they have already released as part of the Atari 50th Anniversary Collection as a DLC pack that you can download. And this is evidently the next iteration, if you like, in the story of modern-day Atari and Intellivision. So let's take a look at this console. Has just been announced and is now available for pre-order. And if you pre-order one today on Atari's website, it will ship in early December. So I'm not quite sure if that means it will arrive in time for Christmas. If you want to buy one as a gift, don't hold me to that. But anyway, Atari ends the world's longest-running video game console war by purchasing the Intellivision brand. That's one way to stop a war, isn't it? Buy the other side. Uniting Atari and Intellivision after 45 years ends the longest-running console war in history. That's Mike Mika, the studio head at Digital Eclipse, of course, another company owned by Atari, who did that, the Atari 50th Anniversary Collection, no less. Among many other things. With the acquisition of Intellivision and its IP, Atari is bringing a former rival console publisher back into the fold. Atari will seek to expand the legacy of Intellivision with digital and physical distribution of certain games. Atari will potentially create new games while also exploring brand and licensing opportunities as part of a brand growth strategy with the rights to more than 200 titles from the Intellivision portfolio. This was a very rare opportunity to unite former competitors and bring together fans of Atari, Intellivision, and the golden age of gaming, said Wade Rosen, who of course is the chairman and CEO of Atari, of modern-day Atari. And there's a good page here actually with some quite interesting background information on the history of the Intellivision console. So of course it was released by Mattel Electronics in 1979 to compete with the Atari 2600, sold an estimated 5 million units and kicked off the first console war with a head-to-head advertising campaign that featured sports journalist and actor George Plimpton in a series of ads comparing the two systems. So yeah, anyone who thinks that Sega versus Nintendo back in the kind of the mid-80s or even later, the PlayStation versus the Xbox or whatever. Nope, the original console war dates all the way back to 1979, and indeed the Intellivision console. So Mattel also launched the M Network label in 1982 to release video game titles directly for the 2600, many of which were ports of existing Intellivision console games. These included games like Astro Blast, Armor Ambush, Tron Deadly Discs, Super Challenge Football, and others. Wonderful, wonderful stuff. And then it goes on to, of course, talk about the crash of 1983, the great video game crash, which, as has previously been debated to a great extent, was, I've come over a bit, Boris Johnson, haven't I? Oh dear. Was pretty much isolated to North America. Not really a thing here in Europe. But hey, I guess the Intellivision versus the VCS was very much an American thing. So we can give them that, can't we? So the console itself, the modern iteration, looks very interesting indeed. You can pre-order it here, £119.99. And as mentioned, that is a pre-order. It ships in early December. So the first Intellivision console brought to you by Atari. The Intellivision Sprint retains the authentic look and feel of the original, modernised with HDMI and wireless controllers. It includes 45 built-in games, including Boulder Dash and Shark, along with classic Intellivision sports games, strategy games, and more. Also includes new overlays for each game. So we have this, of course, this controller with the keypad-style buttons on it, with the overlays, which show you what buttons you need to press for whatever particular game you are playing. And it comes with those, so that's quite interesting. Got 45 built-in games here. I am not familiar with the Intellivision catalogue, so I'm not even going to try to hazard a guess as to what some of these are. I've got a picture of the overlays here. We do have some examples: Astro Smash, Sea Battle, Armour Battle, Auto Racing, and B-17 Bomber. And in a rather nice twist, these wireless controllers do charge when they are docked in the console itself. So, of course, the original Intellivision had the wired controllers, and you could slot them into the top of the console for storage. And some very clever person has decided, no, actually what we'll do is we'll make it so they slot into the console and that can charge them as well. Very clever stuff. As you can tell, I'm in a good mood this Halloween Friday evening. So, we have the overview here. It's got HDMI, it's got built-in games. We know all of that stuff. Features, we've got 2 wireless controllers. The classic disc controllers have been updated to be wireless and rechargeable. We've got the overlays. We've got a USB-A port, which can connect to original Intellivision 2 controllers with adapter. Can also be used to play additional games. Sold separately. That's interesting, isn't it? So will it support a load of ROMs on a USB stick, or will you need to buy something that plugs into that USB port to be able to play additional games? I'm not quite sure. I don't think there's been any kind of announcement on that, not based on what I've been able to see. And yeah, we've just got 92 one-sided controller overlays. I suppose you've got 45 games. You've got one, you've obviously got 2 players, so you've got one for each. Yeah, okay, fair enough, 90. I'm not quite sure what the other 2 are going to be. Uses USB for power. Oh, we've got a full game list here as well. Wonderful stuff. I don't know how I missed that before. So yeah, Armour Battle, Astro Smash, Auto Racing, B-17 Bomber, Baseball, Body Slam, Super Pro Wrestling. I guess I shouldn't read all 45 of these. We've got Boulder Dash. We've got, those sports games as mentioned. We've got Frog, Bog, Hover Force, King of the Mountain. We've got Motocross. That's cool. Night Stalker, Pinball, Reversey. Shark, I already mentioned that. We've got Space Armada and Space Battle, Space Spartans, lots of space-themed games. I guess that's kind of understandable for the late 70s. Thin Ice, Thunder Castle, Tower of Doom, Utopia, Vectron. A whole new game library to discover and to explore on something of a rather nice-looking piece of hardware. I'm not quite sure who's manufactured this for them. I guess it's probably PlayOn again, as per their other reborn consoles. As you can probably see, I haven't had a lot of time at all to do my research this week because I've been busy with the studio again. But thankfully things are coming to an end. Anyway, also we've got the desk PC here, just as a bit of a diversion, a bit of a distraction. I have finally moved the infamous desk PC in. You can see it just here, just in shot, and just out of shot the other side. I've got the tiny Pentium as well, which is a full-size computer, but it's made by a company called Tiny, if that makes sense. And we are off to a flying start. Wonderful stuff. And so hopefully you won't mind if I take another very brief diversion just for a second to talk about this show's sponsor. That's PCBWay.com, of course, the fine purveyor of PCBs for 11 years now, and have become known over the years for their fantastic quality control, their excellent pricing, and their very quick turnaround times. And in the meantime, in the previous 11 years, they have also started offering additional services to complement their core PCB fabrication offering. Stuff such as sheet metal fabrication, injection molding, and CNC machining. So if any of those are a requirement for your next project, please do check out the link to PCBWay.com down in the description. And a big thank you once more to PCBWay for sponsoring Reese Rambles. Of course, here on Reese Rambles, we like to concern ourselves with the retro and the vintage, the old stuff, which I guess for a lot of us is the stuff that we grew up with. People my age, things like, the Spectrum and the Commodore 64, the Acorn Electron, the Atari ST, the Amiga, and all that wonderful early PC gaming in the kind of late 80s and early 90s. Early 3D accelerators and all of that wonderful stuff. But of course, there's a lot of stuff that people of our kind of age would consider to be thoroughly modern, which is also very old now. Stuff like Halo, for example, for the original Xbox, which was released in 2001. Now, I was at college when the original Xbox released, and I remember very much looking forward to Halo. In fact, I remember reading about it in the run-up to the launch in the PC gaming magazines of the time. Stuff like, I think, like PC Format and PC Gamer and that kind of thing. Because, of course, before it kind of started off with Bungie as like a Mac game, and then it was going to be a PC game, and then Microsoft acquired it and said, no, actually, we're going to make this an exclusive to our upcoming console, and annoyed a load of people in the process. Anyway, the history of Halo is completely out of scope for this podcast, but what you do need to know is that original Halo game was a personal favourite of mine. It was somewhat of a killer app on that console, and very much a big part of the reason why I bought an original Xbox. Something I have talked about at length in the past, but I was a Dreamcast guy, as were many of my friends. Actually, the Dreamcast isn't there anymore, because I've moved studio. Well, I wonder where that went. It's in a box somewhere. As were my friends, and the Xbox came along and was kind of the spiritual successor to that console. Had lots of things in common, like the online gameplay and the 4 controller ports, and around Windows as well, I guess. And my friends started to pick up original Xboxes, and it wasn't long before I wanted one too. And Halo was a big part of that. Those 4-player multiplayer split-screen battles, and eventually it culminated in us all gathering around at my friend Vinny's house and having a full-on 16-player networked battle across his entire house, which was quite the achievement. And it is a series, I must say, I got to the 3rd one, and then it kind of dropped off the radar a bit for me. I think because like the 360 was my last Xbox console. And we've had remasters and re-releases and stuff in the meantime, which I have played a little bit of and have been excellent. But now, this week, Microsoft has, I say Microsoft, I guess it's Xbox or Halo Studios. I don't know how the branding works nowadays. Anyway, whoever makes this bloody game nowadays has announced a new and improved remastered version, but it's not just some slightly upscaled graphics and some modern niceties. This is a complete remake with new graphics and a much higher level of detail, very much bringing the game kicking and screaming into the 21st century. And I say that well aware of the fact that 2001 was in the 21st century, but only just, so you can give me that, can't you? I've had people pick me up on stuff like that before, so I do need to be very clear about this. Anyway, Halo Campaign Evolved, it is called. This is the Silent Cartographer mission, which I'm sure many of you will remember from the original Halo game. Unless it's been 24 years since you've played it, and then you might need a bit of a refresher. But this looks absolutely fantastic, doesn't it? I love I just love these graphics. The water effects in particular. Of course, the stuff they can do nowadays with modern ray tracing and all of that. Very cool to see. And this is, I should say, also being released on various different platforms as well. In fact, Halo is coming to the PlayStation for the very first time as a result of Halo Campaign Evolved. Of course, it has been previously released on the PC and the Xbox, as mentioned. And is this going to be an excuse to play this game again? I'm not sure. One thing I did find when I kind of tried to revisit this in more recent years, whether it's quite slow-paced compared to modern shooters, I think. At the time, it felt really frantic and really fast and kind of crazy, but you play it now, and like compared to like the modern Doom games and stuff like that, probably not the best example, but Master Chief does feel a bit heavy and a bit tank-like and a bit sluggish. And to address that, they have said that they are going to be adding a sprint function to this, similar to other kind of modern first-person shooters, which sounds good to me. And of course, I think that appeared in some of the later Halo games as well, if I remember correctly. It's been a long couple of weeks. And as we can see on here, this is being released on the various Xbox platforms, Series X and S. Go away, you stupid overlay. Oh, there's a button there to hide it. YouTube's also updated their user interface this week as well. Yeah, we're it is being released on Game Pass and Xbox on PC, Xbox Cloud, Steam, and the PS5, which is very noteworthy indeed. No release on the Nintendo Switch, which would have been nice to have kind of rounded out the collection of modern consoles. Perhaps release it on the Switch too, but maybe not. Anyway, that's Halo Campaign Evolved, the 24th anniversary of the release of Halo. And that is releasing in 2026. You can go and wishlist it now on your platform of choice, and then you can go and buy it when it comes out, I guess. It's generally how wishlisting works, isn't it? So, of course, it is Halloween today, specifically, and those of you who use Google will no doubt be familiar with their Google Doodles, which are, of course, the interactive Google logos that you can click on that take you through to various interesting bits and pieces that their in-house developers have cooked up for us to play with to mark various special occasions. And, of course, Halloween is no exception this year. And I say those of you who use Google because I must admit I have really drifted away from Google in recent months, particularly because of all their AI rubbish, and the search results are they're just not what they used to be, are they? Anyway, it took someone else to point this out to me. I didn't discover this myself. Someone in the office mentioned it to me, and of course I had to go and check it out immediately. So it is the 45th anniversary of PAC-MAN this year, as we know. More specifically, stuff that I've covered in the past, like the Atari 2600, the 2600 Plus, that's the one, the modern one, which I will be reviewing on the main channel very shortly. They have done a collaboration with Bandai Namco and done an Atari 2600 Plus PAC-MAN edition for the 45th anniversary. Well, it seems Google are also in on the PAC-MAN 45th anniversary bandwagon, and they have done a Google Doodle. My goodness. I'll be glad to get home and have a glass of wine. Anyway, and as you can probably guess, this is Halloween themed, and it is indeed Pac-Man themed. So we'll take a look at this in a second, and I will forewarn you that I am absolutely terrible at Pac-Man, quite notoriously. Although I did get to level 4, I think. There's some quite interesting stuff going on with this one. But this is the Pac-Man Halloween 2025 edition over on doodles.google. And the good thing about these Google Doodles is they are all preserved on doodles.google. So you can go back and play them later on, so you don't need to catch them on the day. So this interactive doodle features a special Halloween edition of Pac-Man, celebrating 45 years of this classic game. Click to play. This doodle's key themes are Halloween and video games, apparently. Very good. Well done, Google. So in celebration of Halloween, Pac-Man is going trick-or-treating. Your mission is to guide him through 8 levels, 4 of which are unique haunted house mazes. And I did enjoy these new levels, actually. I do think they are a really nice touch, and they are very well done. Pay close attention inside each house, as its design directly reflects the personality of the iconic ghost haunting it. Grab power pellets to turn the tables and chase them yourself. And apparently that's appeared around most of the world. Blah, 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 blah. What's your birthday doodle? Anyway, we don't care about any of that. What we want to do is play as some Pac-Man. So, yeah, we've got the classic Pac-Man attract mode screen here with the names of all of the ghosts, Blinky, Pinky, Inky, and Clyde. Back once again, I guess they don't need changing because ghosts are, I guess, somewhat Halloween themed by their very nature. And we have a start game button here on the screen, a big bright orange button with a nice little coin mechanism here, like the old arcade game. So I'll click on this. To change direction, arrow keys. That's literally it. That's all you need to know. Let's turn the audio off here, just in case I am inadvertently capturing it somehow. We can just basically start playing the game. So I'm not going to go through all 8 levels, of course. Pac-Man does have a little froggy hat on. I've just noticed that. Does he have different hats every time you reload the game? I'm sure it didn't look like that last time I played this. Anyway, we've got the ghosts. Of course, we've got the fruits appearing in the usual place. Oh, no, we're dead already. I told you I was terrible at this game. Within seconds, to be fair, I am rambling on here. Within seconds of starting level 1, I don't know. So, of course, level 1 is quite a bit different to how you might remember it. It's got this wonderful purple theme. We've got this fountain at the bottom. We've got these hands. And the power pellets, the power pills, whatever you want to call them, are eyeballs in this Halloween-themed version of the game. Let's just eat some of these ghosts. Yeah, let's nobble that guy. Apologies to any of you who are listening to this on the on the podcast platforms, by the way. I guess a running commentary of someone playing Pac-Man isn't all that interesting, is it? But then, what do you expect from me? Oh, they're flashing. They're flashing. Oh, Lord, they flashing. There we go. It's 2 more ghosts. Let's just get to the end of this level. Because, of course, Pac-Man has those intermediary... The screens, the animations that play between certain levels. And I spotted that this version does also have them. Oh, it's a bit of sneaky by the pink ghost there. Does also have them. I don't know if this one plays after the first level, maybe. There we go. So I've got Pac-Man running around and, running into his little house being chased by ghosts. And there's a few different ones of those that I spotted as well. Anyway, I'm not going to play through the rest of this game. That is the Pac-Man 45th Anniversary Google Doodle, which you can play in your browser. Of course, it is Halloween themed, as mentioned. Go and give it a go. That will be linked down below in the description, or indeed in the show notes on your podcast app. Perhaps don't attempt to play this if you're driving and listening to this. And it should hopefully be up and available for to play for many generations to come, unless there's some weird licensing shenanigans going on with it. A really nice take, I will say, on a very classic arcade game. Very cool to see. Very nicely done. Well done, Google. If you were into PC gaming back in the early 90s, as I most certainly was, you will no doubt remember the Creative Labs SoundBlaster range of sound cards, and indeed there are many clones, much like the ESS audio drive that we had in our PC back in 1995. And even if you didn't own one of the original SoundBlaster cards, you will have seen them mentioned pretty much everywhere in every game setup screen. Certainly the old DOS-based games, if you go into setup and select the sound device. Nestled in there amongst the more exotic offerings like the Roland Sound Canvas and the MT32, the Disney Sound Source and the Gravis Ultrasound, all of those things. You will have spotted the humble SoundBlaster, the 16, the SoundBlaster 2, the SoundBlaster Pro maybe. I don't know what the difference is between all of those cards. I don't really care. But yeah, apparently Creative Labs has stuck around over the years, and I must confess I am not fully up to speed on the history of Creative Labs, so apologies for that, but they are still selling brand new hardware. And if we pop over to their website, we can see the kind of stuff that they have available. So audio interfaces for gamers, essentially, low latency stuff with big knobs on, aimed at streamers and that kind of audience, which makes perfect sense, I think. I think it's quite an interesting market. I think for the vast majority of normal gamers, the integrated audio on your motherboard is probably more than sufficient, but hey, it's not up to me to tell you that. You want to flash a bit of cash on your gaming rig or whatever. What on earth is this? SoundBlaster X5. £269.99. What a beauty, look at that. High-res external dual DAC USB sound card with fully balanced X-amp headphone bi-amplifier for audio files. So that's aimed specifically at audio files. Very good. Next time I'm watching music videos on YouTube, might consider one of those. Anyway, one thing that they have started offering, one thing that they have launched this week, which I think is quite noteworthy, is a new modular system, and they are launching this as a Kickstarter, which I think is quite interesting for such a big company with such a storied history. You'd think they'd be able to invest some money into this and sell it as a normal product, but hey, there we go. So this is it. This is the Kickstarter, and this is fully funded as of the time of recording. It was fully funded very quickly and has 351 backers, even though it has 56 whole days left to go. And this is the SoundBlaster Reimagine. It's a modular audio hub with AI. Dear, oh dear. Anyway, the tagline here is customize your setup with swappable hardware, retro gaming, and AI-powered apps. And we have this very sus-looking video here, which I believe has some kind of Gen AI components. Sorry, I got distracted by the parrot there, the old... Remember that? The SoundBlaster CD had Dr. Spatzo on it, and it had the parrot, and you can make it swear, and a few other audio-based toys. Anyway, this is the modular system that they have come up with. It is the ultimate audio hub, apparently, the SoundBlaster Reimagine. And we've got someone here in true infomercial style struggling to plug a cable into the back of their PC. Look at that. Oh no, it's disappointing. Look at all these cables. Oh, if only there was a way to do away with these. And there's some more cables being plugged in. But anyway, that's the hub. aimed again, I guess, at people like, gamers, streamers, YouTubers, that kind of thing. But, it has some quite interesting features as well. Across devices as well. Does it work with your console? I don't know. Let's have a little bit of a read. So, this is, look at all these little bits and pieces that you can plug in. Is that Wing Commander? Yeah, very cool. So, the original SoundBlaster, the Kickstarter reads, changed the way millions experienced sound. It powered gaming, creativity, and discovery. Now it returns as SoundBlaster Reimagine, built to bring that same spirit into today's world of play and work. Reimagine is a modular audio hub that brings all your audio devices together in one place. Switch connections instantly across any input and any output. Customize your setup with programmable modular controls. Enjoy high-resolution audio playback via a powerful DAC, that's a digital to analog converter, and amp. And you have super user access to hardware to create and run your own apps on it. I believe, did I see Doom running on this? That wouldn't surprise me. I'm sure I saw that somewhere. I don't know if it was part of the Kickstarter campaign, but no more tangled setups or juggling devices. Reimagine connects everything in one place. So we've got stuff like a Stream Deck type thing where we can switch between different inputs, for example. We've got a big knob that we could use for volume control or perhaps mixing between headphone and game audio, something like that. We've got some nice slider, fader type things just on this example setup here. And we've got this wonderful large screen module as well, which I guess is what they're talking about when you can run your own apps on there. So connect all your devices. You've got PCs, laptops, mobile phones, tablets, gaming consoles, plug in headphones, speakers, mics, and instruments. Does it do MIDI? That would be cool, wouldn't it? We've got a high-resolution DAC, which is 32-bit, 384 kilohertz. PCM playback, we've got a 3-inch screen included. It's based on an octa-core ARM SoC with an NPU. Is that a neural, unit thing for your AI buzzword, venture capitalist, whatever. It supports Wi-Fi 6, Bluetooth 5.0, so that will be how you connect all of your devices and things to it. Compatible with PC, Mac, Linux, PS5, Switch, smartphones, etc. No love for the Xbox. Powers headphones. We've got the 120 decibel SNR DAC. We've got 8 gigabytes of RAM in a sound card. It's got a TF card slot. It's got 16 gigabytes of eMMC flash storage. 16 gigabytes. Yeah, what a crazy looking thing. And it's fully funded. So we've got buttons, we've got knob, we've got dual slider, we've got the smart screen, we've got the bass unit, which is available now, apparently. That's the Horizon bass unit, the long skinny one. We've got the Vertex bass unit, which is basically the same but slightly different kind of layout. And we're just advertising stuff here like the studio grade sound, the AI apps, and the legacy of the SoundBlaster being reborn. Cool to see the name back, although, yeah, did it ever go away? No. This is confusing, isn't it? Confusing marketing. Anyway, they have a few different bundles here. So there's the Super Duper Early Bird bundle, which is $299. I imagine that's probably sold out now. Yes, we've got the Super Early Bird, which is $329. We've got the Early Bird, $349, and the Kickstarter Special at $379. The set, based on how much you pay, includes, let's go for the cheapest available one here at $329. You've got the bass unit, the smart screen, the dual slider, the buttons, and the knob module. So basically all the stuff that we've seen pictured on the Kickstarter page. Yeah, that's that. That is the SoundBlaster Reimagine Kickstarter. Stretch goals, if they reach $250,000, we've got the limited edition SoundBlaster Parrot plush. Every backer gets a free limited edition plush parrot with the SoundBlaster Reimagine logo and Kickstarter logo on the brand tag. I like that. That's so cool. 500k, that will unlock the Vertex bass unit, as mentioned, which is a portrait layout with 6 slots, offering more space and versatility. And if they raise $1 million, there is a mystery stretch goal, which is to be revealed. Maybe they haven't actually been able to think of anything, and that's why. Maybe they're bringing back the SoundBlaster 16 ISA card, maybe with some kind of USB interface so you can use it with your Nintendo Switch too. I don't know. Anyway, there's some behind-the-scenes information here with some design sketches and stuff like that, which is all really nice to see. A bit of a story behind the engineering behind the thing. And, yeah, what I'm not quite sure about is how this how this kind of fits in with the Creative Labs ecosystem, because I did a find on this page, and it doesn't mention Creative Labs anywhere. The Kickstarter itself is being run by SoundBlaster, apparently, is the brand. And it talks a lot about the return of SoundBlaster as a brand, despite the fact that if you go to creative.com, you can buy SoundBlaster branded hardware already. So I don't know, confusing marketing, but hey, looks like quite an interesting device. And new SoundBlaster, it's got that retro connection, hasn't it? Always cool to see quite an interesting and fun new piece of hardware for people to play with. Linux is something I have been rather fond of, I will say, since I first started tinkering with it all the way back around, I think it was about 1999-ish, something like that. I first discovered it on a friend's PC who had a couple of older brothers who were studying computer science at university, who kind of introduced me to that. And it was kind of given away on magazines and stuff at the time, and it was like, wow, it's an operating system, but it's free. And also you can modify the source code. What on earth is going on there? And who knew? Who knew that Linux would grow into the huge force that it is today, running pretty much most of the modern world? I think it's fair to say. I have, of course, ably demonstrated my my love for Linux with this lovely boxed copy here of Red Hat Linux 5.2, which dates to around 97-ish, I believe. I did do a video on a slightly later release of this. I think it was Red Hat Linux 6 on my Pentium PC. Nonetheless, you're getting lots of shout-outs this week. Well done. Good work. It's something that's kind of creeping into our day-to-day lives more and more, and indeed starting to get a bit more of a foothold on the desktop. Dare I say, the year of Linux on the desktop. I have, of course, covered Bazzite quite a lot in recent videos on my main channel over on Control-Alt-Reese, and I have switched to using Bazzite on my main gaming PC as well now, which is something that I will always shout from the rooftops given any kind of opportunity. And I'm not the only one. There are certain governments around the world who are starting to investigate Linux as a result of the ever-growing threat of cyber attacks and all of this kind of stuff, with the operating system generally being considered to be more secure and whatever else. We're not going to get into the details of that. We're just going to report on what people are up to. So this was posted over on my Discord this week from itsfoss.com. It's Foss News, of course, Foss, free open source software. And the headline here is "No more Windows. The Indian Defence Services are switching to Linux." So this is the Indian government, specifically their defence branch. The Indian government offers to use Linux distribution, replacing Microsoft Windows. In the past, we have seen governments trying to switch to Linux for their administration needs, but that usually comes with its own set of challenges, ranging from interoperability all the way to training the end users. As it turns out, the Indian government is all set to take up that challenge once again by implementing an internally developed Linux distro. And this is the important interesting aspect to this story, I guess, the interesting twist. The fact that they are actually developing their own Linux distribution internally for the use of the Indian government. So, according to a recent report, the Defence Ministry of India has decided to replace Windows with an in-house developed Linux distro called Maya on all computers that are connected to the internet. While details are very slim on this distro, we know that it is based on Ubuntu, of course, and has been developed locally within a very short 6-month period. On this, an unnamed official from the Defence Ministry had this to add: Maya has the interface and all functionality like Windows, and users will not feel much difference as they transition to it. So, no information on what this distro is or what it looks like or how it works, but sounds like they've taken Ubuntu and they've tried to make it as Windows-like as possible to ease the transition. Very much a very familiar story, I will say, in the world of Linux over the years, all these Windows-like user interfaces, desktop environments. That does sound promising. We'll get back to the story, because many users find it difficult to adapt to a new interface that's not like Windows. This should, in theory, help them adapt to a Linux distro faster. Well, you see, India, like most countries, has to face cyber attacks on a daily basis. Those range from malware attacks all the way to ransomware attacks, which have affected critical infrastructure in the past. We've certainly seen more than our fair share of those just lately. Maya was specifically developed as a way to deter such attacks on critical infrastructure, and it also features an endpoint detection and protection system called Chakravaya. the details of which are yet to be ascertained. Initially, Maya will be installed on all internet-connected computers in the South Block of the Secretariat building in New Delhi. And that block houses important offices such as the Prime Minister's Office, the Ministry of Defence, and the Ministry of External Affairs. So the Prime Minister of India will be using Linux on their desktop PC. And this is already underway. So apparently this started on August the 15th, according to this rather chaotically written article. It's good to see that more and more governments are pushing for the use of Linux across critical administration agencies. And this certainly is a big push in India. In the case of India, the state of Tamil Nadu had previously decided to switch to another homegrown Linux distro called Boss Linux, good name, for their administrative needs, and that had received appreciation from many. So there we go, and that story comes via The Hindu, apparently. I did click through and look at the original story, but this is the one that was submitted. So yeah, another government. I think the German government did a big experiment. They were one of the early ones, quite a few years back, to attempt to transition to Linux on the desktop for all of their users. Not quite sure how that went. But these stories do pop up fairly regularly nowadays. Of course, again, kind of thrust into the spotlight, I guess, because of Windows 11 and all of that sadly no longer supported hardware, which is becoming e-waste. Thank you, Microsoft. And more people turning to Linux and seeing what it has to offer, which is always good to see. And nice to see it being used here in a very official capacity. Over to the world of Counter-Strike next, and a very big story indeed in the news around this game. Of course, huge competitive multiplayer game, very big in the esports world, made by Valve, and with quite a long and storied history at this point. This story specifically concerns Counter-Strike 2 and a recent update from Valve. There has been quite a lot of talk just lately about Valve enabling, loot boxes and gambling and all of these kind of secondary economies that kind of build up around these collectible items and skins and things within these games. Perhaps quite rightly getting some heat for this. And this is a story that kind of fits in that vein, I guess. Anyway, let's head over to tomshardware.com before I butcher this intro anymore. And the headline here, ludicrous $6 billion Counter-Strike 2 skins market crashes. Loses $3 billion overnight. Game update destroys collapses market. Oh, and that's that. Okay. So, one small update has crashed the CS2 market. Valve pushed a small update to Counter-Strike 2 yesterday that mostly consisted of minor optimization tweaks, along with changes to how hard it is to acquire certain skins in-game. A lot of you will be familiar with how Counter-Strike's market works. It's player-to-player, meaning anyone with a rare item can sell it to another person for real money. These transactions often land in the hundreds of thousands range for the most desirable items, with an AK-47 skin even crossing the $1 million mark recently. Therefore, a sudden change dismantling the entire economy could not be foreseen. Wow. It's like an industry of its own, where many seasoned players have made their homes collecting cosmetics that are speculated to appreciate in value over time for profit. There are several tiers for these, with the highest gold category reserved exclusively for knives and gloves. Of course, very important in Counter-Strike. Previously, only random loot boxes could get you these coveted items, but now you can trade 5 covert items, one tier below, to obtain 1 gold tier knife or glove, making it significantly less difficult and, by extension, valuable. So yeah, previously the only way to get these top tier items was via loot boxes, but now you can actually trade the much more common items from the next tier down. You can trade 5 of those and you can get one of these top tier items, which of course makes them far easier to obtain, completely destroying the market that's built up around them. It's hard to feel sorry for these people, but you know, it's a living, I guess. Not a world I know a huge amount about. Anyway, for the average player, this is anything but a welcome change, especially if you're someone new to the game. It lowers the barrier of entry and even makes skin trading less intimidating for the inexperienced. The issue arises with the sharks at the top of the chain, who've invested millions of dollars in the market, treating it like any other exchange that carries commodities. They woke up to a significant chunk of cash wiped from their portfolios overnight, which, whatever you think about virtual items, is startling. According to Price Empire, the skin market peaked at over peaked at over 6.08 billion right before the update was announced, then fell to a low of 3.08 billion, raising roughly $3 billion in real-world money. For finance and crypto bros, this might not be a big deal, and there's community dialogue suggesting mass hysteria has blown this ordeal out of proportion, much as it does in the stock market. That said, numerous notable figures in the space have publicly expressed their concerns and even exited the market. So yeah, there's a couple of more paragraphs just going into a bit more detail, I guess, about the market around that. So I will let you read that at your leisure. I don't want to take clicks away from these websites, but no, in fact, I do this to try to drive a bit more traffic their way, in fact. But yeah, they have wiped half of the value of the Counter-Strike 2 trading market overnight with this update that makes the rarest items much easier to obtain. And that is that. I'm not really sure what else you can say on that. I'm sure there are many among us who have very fond memories indeed of point-and-click adventure games. Stuff like your Monkey Islands, your Maniac Mansions, your Day of the Tentacle, Beneath a Steel Sky, all of those fantastic point-and-click games. And yeah, I think I will say the original Monkey Island was probably a particular favourite of mine back on the Atari ST back in the day. I don't think I ever completed it. Of course, I have completed it in recent years, but as a kid, without the benefit of the internet and being able to look up how to complete some of those puzzles, I think I spent an awful long time just wandering around in circles. Did I get to the pirate ship, indeed, let alone Monkey Island itself? I can't even remember. Anyway, that's by the by. Of course, it grew into this huge market in and of itself. And some of those kind of mid-90s games with those wonderful big hand-drawn sprites and CD audio soundtracks, fully voiced, stuff like that. I mean, it really was kind of the peak of adventure gaming. And one of the games that I include in that is Simon the Sorcerer, of course. Perhaps not quite as big as Monkey Island, for example, but certainly a household name in that world. And one that I think does deserve to be wider known. And it is a game that I have tinkered with a little bit. I don't think I've played it through to the end, but I do remember playing various bits and pieces of it over the years. So, you know, I don't consider myself to be any kind of expert. But this was brought to my attention this week, and I thought it was rather lovely. So this is a new official entry in the Simon the Sorcerer franchise called Simon the Sorcerer Origins. And this is basically the story of young Simon and his coming of age and becoming a sorcerer, I guess. And you get to play as young Simon in his wizard robes. Lots of callbacks and things to the original games. Like I say, this is an official prequel. It is all hand animated, which is very cool to see in that 90s cartoon style. They are very much pushing this as part of their marketing. And it stars Chris Barry as well, who is of course Rimmer from Red Dwarf, and Rick Astley, somehow, as mentioned in the trailer and also on the official website, which we will take a look at in a moment. And yeah, as you might expect, I haven't had time to actually play this. It's only been out for a couple of days. But we'll have a look at the website anyway, because I like the look of this. I like the cut of their jib. So, after 30 years, the official prequel, a snarky coming-of-age story with magic, mystery, and a classic 90s vibe. Simon the Sorcerer Origins. Available on everything, which is great to see. PC, Mac, Linux, Steam Deck, PS5, PS4, Xbox Series X and S. The Xbox One? Is that even supported anymore? Is that even current? And the Nintendo Switch. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. We've got some music labels mentioned here as well. So evidently good soundtrack in this. In fact, the soundtrack is available for purchase separately, which is good to see. So, Simon the Sorcerer Origins is a modern adventure created in a completely hand-drawn late 90s cartoon visual style. The prequel is set a few weeks before the events of the first 1993 adventure. The game world is crafted with a modern visual style filled with seamless real-time sequences, magic and puzzle solving tied together with an engrossing storyline that will finally answer some important questions raised by fans from the first game. So, 10 to 12 hours of gameplay through Simon's new house, the legendary Academy of Magic, absurd forest, stinking swamps, rotten dungeons, alchemical laboratories, ... I guess that implies that there's more. An adventure with a modern twist, nostalgic for fans, intriguing for new players. An ancient prophecy to be revealed, at least try. Puzzles, monsters, crap, comedy, bad smells, old control. Crap. Yeah, it's got puzzles and monsters and crap. Dozens of Easter eggs to discover. There's a video game for everyone. Nostalgic for lovers of the saga. Exciting for new players. I believe they have already just said that. Classic controls with the pointer or direct with the joypad. Touch supported for the Switch and the Steam Deck. Complete accessibility with text size, contrast and many configuration possibilities. That's fantastic to see. Dubbed in English and German with Chris Barry and Eric Borner. Soundtrack written by Mason Fisher and featuring Rick Astley with Together Forever, if you remember that song. Random. Localised in English, German, Spanish, French, Japanese, Portuguese, Brazil, Russian, Chinese and Polish. And again, featuring Rick Astley. But yeah, as we saw from the trailer over on YouTube, and of course this will be linked in the usual places, TM. I like the art style of this. I think the animation was perhaps a little bit, not quite as smooth as it could be, but I guess this has been created by quite a small team and it is all hand-drawn, so quite important to bear in mind. Simon the Sorcerer is a legendary point-and-click adventure, point-and-click adventure saga. We'll roll with that. First released in '93 on MS-DOS and Amiga. Famous for its strong and spicy humour and that enveloping fantasy setting, seasoned with intriguing puzzles. The first 2 episodes are considered a cult of the genre. I always forget the second one, The Lion, the Wizard and the Wardrobe. So there we go. It's developed by Small Things Studios, and indeed the website is smallthingsstudios.com. Licensed from AdventureSoft Publishing, of course, and published by Inin, who I hadn't heard of. But it is available now, and if we head over to the Steam page, we can see that on PC at least, it is available for purchase with a 10% introductory discount. Offer ends on the 3rd of November for £18.89. So if you're a fan of adventure games, it's got that good old-fashioned point-and-click interface. You can play it with your gamepad, directly moving young Simon around. And all those kind of accessibility options and things in there as well. Cool-looking stuff, official prequel to the Simon the Sorcerer games. Links in the usual places. It probably hasn't escaped your attention that I am somewhat of a fan of a game called Doom. I'm not sure if you've heard of it, but I have a new and improved Doom Shrine here behind me as part of my new studio setup with my collection of rather nice Doom-related items. And I guess I'll be giving you a bit of a closer look at that as part of whatever studio tour video I do over on the main channel at some point in the near future. If I can finally start recording again. I know I promised to start getting stuff out again in November, and that's now. So I better get on with it. Anyway, of course, there has been Doom-related news this week, and as always, it is a joy for me to bring that to you. So let's head back over to Kickstarter.com and see what this one's all about. So this is Doom Arena, the board game, and it's actually 2 board games, one based on the original Doom, and also one based on Doom the Dark Ages, which of course is the latest entry in the Doom franchise released this year, which I haven't played yet, funnily enough. This is a miniatures board game, so you've got the little miniatures of all of the Doom characters, the Doom enemies and the Doom guy. Of course, I've got my own Doom miniatures here, including my little broken dude. I bent my Wookiee, as someone pointed out on the Discord this week. Very good. And this has also reached its goal, which is great to see. So £113,576 of its £100,000 goal from 699 backers. It's got 21 days left. And yeah, it's a Doom-themed board game. So without further ado, let's go and check out the description here. It's a game that you can complete in 3 15-minute rounds, which is great. I have nothing against these long-winded board games that take hours and hours to play, but I will say these quick kind of pick up and play ones are always very much appreciated, I will say. Did I say that twice? I think I did. Brutal PvP combat. It's quick to learn and hard to master. 2 to 4 players. It's for ages 14 plus, and it takes 30 to 45 minutes. Doom Arena board game is a fast-paced PvP miniatures board game where one player takes control of the Doom Slayer and faces off against an opponent commanding the hordes of hell. I've forgotten how to talk. Low complexity, high mortality. That's how excited I am about this board game. It has rendered me unable to speak. which is quite an important skill when you have a podcast to record. Anyway, Doom Arena board game offers strategic depth through engaging, brutal gameplay like heavy metal chess. It's simple to learn yet hard to master, with each piece commanding a unique style of movement and attack that demands clever tactical positioning to achieve victory. This is Doom, forged for the tabletop, no compromises. Are we going to hit record on this take again? Should we do another take? You know what, let's not. Let's stick with it. I don't care anymore. Doom Arena board game captures the carnage and asymmetrical combat that defines the legendary video game series. This is a collaboration of die-hard fans from across 4 companies, designed in partnership with Resurrectionist Games, developed and published by Modiphius, and officially licensed by id Software and Bethesda. I must say, I do like the look of the box. Doom 1993 Deluxe Edition. We've got these 13 figures here with all of your favourite baddies from Doom. We've got 20 combat dice. My goodness, how many dice? 4 arena map boards, which is cool. We've got the blood trackers, we've got the key cards, we've got the tokens, we've got the cards, we've got the demon arsenal cards, weapon cards, upgrade cards. We've got the rulebook, thankfully. I think we'll be needing that. So essentially this is the same game, but 2 different editions. So one that is classic Doom themed and one that is Doom the Dark Ages themed. So, yeah, that's a paragraph explaining just that. So, let's have a look at the options. If you are looking to back this, there is a YouTube video showing the gameplay as well. Of course, I won't play that because I appreciate that this ramble is starting to drag on a bit now. We've got all the classics here, your Cacodemons, your Lost Souls, your Pinkies, your Archviles, your Revenants. And we've got the Doom the Dark Ages characters as well. The Doom Slayer, the Mancubus, we've got the Imp Stalker, the Hell Knight, the Battle Knight, the Pinky Rider, Arachnotron, the Soldier. Of course, I haven't played that game, so I don't know what any of those things are. But I am assured that they are characters in Doom the Dark Ages. Where are the rewards? There's too much information here. Anyway, so... yes, this is set to ship. I do apologise. This is set to ship physically a year from now in October 2026, so very realistic timescale, I will say. They are evidently working on the writing and the design at the moment. Like I say, there is that gameplay video over on YouTube if you want to see how far along they are with that. And if you do back this, of course, you will get updates as always. So you can buy both premium editions of the board game. So you get both versions of the board game, the premium versions with all the optional add-ons for £120. You can get yourself just a little plastic Doom Slayer if that's what you want from the Dark Ages. That's £5 for one of those, promotional miniature. The standard edition is, I think that's quite reasonable actually, £45. So you've got the standee version of the Doom Arena board game. And you can choose which version you want. So you can choose the classic Doom version or the Dark Ages version. The premium edition, which comes with some more plastic dudes. All in 93, so that is all in on the 93 with the core game and all of the reinforcements, expansions and accessories. So you've got all your little Doom dudes there. Both premium editions, £190. All in on the Dark Ages, £245. All in with literally everything is £330. And that also comes with a massive looking Doom Slayer riding a dragon figure as well. That looks enormous. So you've got all your expansions with all your extra characters and of extra bits and pieces. A little dice tray thing. Whatever that's called in the world of tabletop gaming, not my area of expertise. But Doom most certainly is. Anyway, that is Doom Arena, the board game. You can go and back that on the link down in the description. I think it's about time, as I am going slightly mad here, to do the video of the week, and then we can wrap things up and we can all get on with our day. And indeed, that does bring us around rather neatly to my regular Videos of the Week feature, wherein I feature videos that I have seen here on the old YouTubes in the past week that have entertained or enlightened or inspired or educated or otherwise just improved my life in some small way. Sometimes they are retro and vintage computing, gaming and technology related. Quite often they aren't. Sometimes there's one, but more often than not there's more than one. And that is also the case this week. Hence me changing the name to Videos of the Week in recent rambles. And I will say, one of these is related to the world of gaming, although it's not really to do with vintage and retro stuff. It's kind of more bang up to date modern technology, but it did surprise me as a person of old school sensibilities, as you'll hopefully see and hopefully understand. And the other video is to do with a bit of British nautical engineering. It's got nothing to do with computer stuff or gaming stuff, but it's another one of those random things that came up on my YouTube homepage, and I decided to give it a watch. And I couldn't stop watching it because it was quite an interesting thing. So we'll talk about the first one first, shall we? This is a review of the Minis Forum MSS1 Max, which is a small form factor system which costs £2,000, £2,000 sterling, actually just slightly over. And this has integrated graphics in the form of the Radeon 8060S. Now, the spec of this thing is insane, this computer. It's an absolute beast. I don't know if this was a paid review. It wasn't marked as a paid review, and he didn't mention that it was a paid review. So I have no idea, Random Gaming in HD, but you're one of my favourite channels. I watch all of your stuff religiously, so I will give you the benefit of the doubt here. And the reason this surprised me was, of course, because it is essentially integrated graphics. This machine, I will say, is aimed at more kind of AI applications. Hence, it has such a ridiculously high-spec GPU on board. But of course, it is also brilliant for gaming. So I have paused it here so we can take a look at the specs. We've got 128 gigabytes of 8000 megahertz LPDDR5X RAM, which I believe is shared between the main system RAM and the GPU, because it is all integrated. We've got a 2TB M2 SSD. It's got that Radeon 8060S, Windows 11, and a 320 watt internal PSU. So for what it is actually relatively low power as well. And yeah, it puts it through its paces. It shows off some games running, obviously shows what it looks like inside. But I guess this thing just really surprised me. Let's take a look at Cyberpunk 2077, because of course this does support ray tracing. And the quality of some of the graphics from this fully integrated small form factor system, from someone who grew up in the 90s, I thought was quite impressive. Obviously, you do pay a price for that. But of course, it does have some quite interesting implications for using this chipset in gaming laptops and other stuff like that in the very near future. So I guess it also has that element of a kind of promise to it. And indeed, lots of very surprised people in the comments as well, just kind of blown away by this thing. So I thought I'd mention it. Also, Random Gaming in HD, if you're heading over that way, go give the channel, go check out some of the other videos over there as well. Like I say, one of my favourite channels and one that I do watch an awful lot. But that is 14 minutes and 18 seconds, and it is a hardware review. So not the usual kind of thing that I would go for. And speaking of not the usual kind of thing that I would go for, let's have a look at our second video of the week this week. This is Luke O'Sullivan, What Happened to Britain's Great Transport Experiment. Now this is... There used to be a hovercraft that you could get from England to France. Of course, we have the Channel Tunnel nowadays. We also have ferries, and a lot of people nowadays also fly to, if you're flying to Paris or whatever from one of the British airports, a very kind of cheap and convenient way to travel. Is flying convenient nowadays? Probably not actually flying into the EU. Apparently it's a bit of a pain in the bottom nowadays. But but before there was a hovercraft. There was actually a catamaran as well, I remember, but that isn't covered in this video. But you used to be able to get a hovercraft from Dover to Calais across the British Channel. And apparently it used to take 20 minutes, which when you consider that the ferry takes an hour and a half and the Channel Tunnel takes, about 40 minutes, something like that. Absolutely insane, just the speed of this thing. And I remember seeing it. We used to go on a lot of family holidays to France, and we used to drive. My dad used to tow our caravan, and we used to see the hovercraft port. And my dad had actually been on it as well a few times when he had to kind of travel to Europe for business and stuff. You can actually drive your car onto this thing, and you could travel to France with your car on a hovercraft. Apparently incredibly noisy, uncomfortable, quite a painful and vomit-inducing experience. That's what my dad used to tell me when I was a kid, and apparently it is confirmed by this video. But really nice. I never got to experience this thing up close and personal firsthand. And it's great to hear the story behind it and its kind of military origins and things, and just how massively ridiculous and inefficient this thing was. And how they actually extended it at one point as well by basically chopping the thing into quarters and inserting sections into the middle of it to make it even bigger. And It also talks about a modern hovercraft service which is running in the UK to the Isle of Wight, so you can still actually get a hovercraft across the sea in the UK in this day and age, which I was completely unaware of. I don't know what it is about hovercraft, but they're just so cool, aren't they? I don't know. I think they're cool, especially when they're this ridiculously large. So yeah, that is Luke O'Sullivan in collaboration with the Hovercraft Museum. And yeah, 14 minutes and 40 seconds long. I thought it was a really good watch, really well put together. If you're a fan of Tom Scott and that kind of, these little tidbits of life and random British guys looking at stuff, I can highly recommend this channel and I can highly recommend this video. Hence, I've picked it for one of my videos of the week. Anyway, that's all I have time for you for this week's Ramble. It is now 6:30 in the evening. It's Halloween. I'd quite like to go home, as mentioned, and have a nice glass of bubbles. But of course, before we go, we do have to say a big thank you to the members of my Discord for submitting some of this week's stories, including but not limited to Manimo, Vanessa, Technic, and Naoki, and indeed other people participating in that conversation like Steve's Tech Shed, Katrina, Other Retro, Matt, Venberg, and I'm sure there's probably a load of others that that have passed me by. So apologies if you are watching this or listening to it, and I haven't mentioned your name. And if you want to join us over on the Discord, there is a link, of course, in the usual places, alongside all of the other stuff that I have featured in this week's Ramble. So just as a reminder, just before we sign off this week, Reese Rambles goes out on my second YouTube channel, youtube.com/Reese Rambles, and also on all of the podcast platforms at 2 minutes to midnight every Friday night UK time. And the clocks have now changed. Not that that affects anything, but yeah, last Sunday the clocks changed. So if you still haven't updated the time on your microwave, now's probably the time to do it. Anyway, that's all I have for you for this week's Ramble. Thank you ever so much. I am very much looking forward to popping over to the old studio for the last time. I promise it's the last time tomorrow morning to fetch the last few bits and bobs, and then that's it. That's the end of an era. So I'll have to record a little bit of that while I'm over there for a bit of a studio tour / move video. And then that's it. The ball's back up and running, back rolling. The ball is back up and running. Mixing my metaphors there, aren't I? Over on the main channel, Control.Reese, and we're all back up and running. So thank you for bearing with me for the past couple of months, and I hope you've enjoyed these rambles. Of course, these will continue on Fridays, as they always have. That's all I've got. I need to go. Thank you ever so much. Goodbye.